For over 2 millennia, Jain tradition has venerated Mahavira as the 24th Tirthankara, a supreme spiritual teacher who conquered the physical world. He is traditionally depicted seated in perfect, undisturbed meditation, anchored by the symbol of a lion. Finding the exact historical man behind that flawless posture requires navigating a long-standing timeline debate. Traditional Jain accounts place his birth precisely in 599 BCE, while modern historians argue he lived about a century later, placing him as a direct contemporary of the Buddha during the reigns of ancient Magadha kings. Regardless of the exact decade, historical consensus agrees on his origins. A man named Vardhamana was born into the Naya tribe, growing up amid the lush, fertile valleys of ancient Bihar. He was raised in immense royal privilege, inheriting a life of political power and physical comfort. We know Vardhamana existed. We know he held earthly authority. But his historical legacy only takes shape when he looks at that political authority and realizes it offers absolutely zero protection against a much larger, invisible, cosmic threat. Vardhamana's family followed the teachings of Parshvanatha, an earlier spiritual leader who outlined the existential terror of samsara, the endless, exhausting cycle of suffering, death, and rebirth. This animation illustrates the Jain concept of the jiva, or the soul. In its natural, undisturbed state, the jiva is inherently pure, eternal, and completely weightless. Jain philosophy defines karma as actual, microscopic, physical matter. It is an environmental dust that permeates the universe, distinct from more abstract concepts of a moral ledger or divine judgment. Every human action, every spoken word, and every passing intention acts like an adhesive. It draws this karmic dust in, where it binds permanently to the soul. Over a lifetime of normal human behavior, the jiva becomes heavily encased, darkened, and literally weighed down, trapping it within the physical realm of rebirth. Escaping a physical trap requires a physical solution. To clean the soul, you have to stop generating the adhesive. Realizing this at age 30, the prince makes a terrifyingly pragmatic decision to abandon his entire life. Vardhamana methodically strips away every generator of karma. He leaves his kingdom. He severs all ties with his family. He relinquishes all property. Finally, he discards his own clothing, walking completely naked into the wilderness. He spends the next 12.5 years subjecting himself to extreme physical deprivation. He fasts for weeks at a time, endures the scorching heat and monsoon rains without shelter, and frequently refuses to even sit down to rest. Vardhamana employs his body as a deliberate spiritual technology. By refusing it comfort and food, he generates an intense internal heat, a friction intended to burn away the physical layers of karma encasing his soul. The unyielding operating principle behind this technology is Ahimsa, or absolute nonviolence. He has to eradicate old karma without generating any new karma in the process. To harm another living thing is to create karma. Therefore, achieving a state of total harmless inaction becomes the most physically exhausting and demanding action a human body can endure. In this tradition, power shifts from the control of others to the exercise of absolute, uncompromising self-restraint. Vardhamana understood that life does not just exist in animals and humans. He observed microscopic life forms thrive everywhere, across the surface of plants, suspended in bodies of water, crackling inside the fire, and drifting in the wind. To avoid harming these elemental microbes, his physical stillness becomes absolute. He refuses to swat at biting insects. He refuses to wave his arms to clear the air. By remaining entirely motionless, he forms an impenetrable shield, ensuring no new karma dust can stick to him. Over a decade of total exposure, his body weathers deeply. Ancient stone depictions capture this raw austerity, illustrating the stark contrast between a rapidly degrading physical exterior and a massively expanding spiritual interior. At age 43, the process reaches its mechanical conclusion. Sitting motionless in a deep meditative state beneath a sala tree on the Rijuvalika riverbanks, the final atoms of karmic dust burn away. His soul is completely clean. With the blockage removed, he attains Kevala Jnana, infinite, unobstructed knowledge. The Prince Vardhamana is gone. He is now Mahavira, the great hero. Having achieved omniscience, Mahavira does not simply withdraw into the ether. He walks back towards civilization and spends the next 30 years explaining the mechanics of his liberation to anyone who will listen. Mahavira claims his place in a long spiritual lineage as a Tirthankara, a ford-maker. He reforms and strictifies the older traditions of his predecessor, Parshvanatha, ensuring the ancient path remains traversable for others. To preserve this highly specific knowledge, Mahavira engineers a resilient social structure. He establishes a strict fourfold order uniting monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen, ensuring his ascetic methods can be transmitted orally across generations. This diagram shows the pragmatic solution he developed for everyday people. He formulated the 5 vows. Notice how Ahimsa, non-violence, acts as the massive load-bearing foundation. The other 4 vows, truth, non-stealing, chastity, and non-attachment, all rest entirely on the premise of doing no harm. He effectively took the extreme, isolating mechanics of his own enlightenment and translated them into a highly replicable, systemic ethical architecture that an entire civilization could practice. At the age of 72, Mahavira's physical body finally expires at Pawapuri. Today, the white marble of the Jalmandir water temple marks the physical site of his nirvana. Free of all karmic weight, his fully liberated soul detaches from the cycle of samsara once and for all, ascending to abide eternally in Siddhashila, the realm of perfected beings. His physical presence left the earth, but his systemic codification of Ahimsa rippled outward. Over the centuries, his strict rules for harmlessness became a cornerstone of Indian ethical philosophy, directly laying the groundwork for modern leaders like Mahatma Gandhi. The enduring paradox of Mahavira is found right here. One man's solitary, agonizing pursuit of absolute physical inaction engineered one of history's most active and resilient moral frameworks, offering a timeless, practical blueprint for nonviolent resistance.